I'll welcome everybody to another session of Artists and Creatives, and more folks will maybe be joining us in the coming minute or two. And we're really pleased today to have our own Christopher Losa talking or leading a conversation with the Royal Wave about what it means to be an artist or to make art. What is art at the end of modernity? Because we're at an inflection point. Many of us are grappling with what this means for us in our personal, professional, creative lives. And Christopher's been doing some great thinking on it. So I'm going to let him take the floor and open it up to wider conversation.
Great, thanks. My quick view of the Zoom room is that several new faces. So I'll just give a little bit of background for those who are not deeply familiar with the conversations that we've been hosting and where we are. So the Artists and Creatives group has, for the past couple of years, has really used the Post-Carbon Institute's Think Resilience education series as kind of our North Star for content creation, and that's been principally curated by Michelle Guillot with her What's Next for Earth initiative, and the presentation of the artists that are part of that series of exhibitions. And the conversations have flowed very much from those presentations. As that course series begins to wind down, Michelle, Christina, and I have been having a lot of conversation about what's next after What's Next for Earth. And I've been particularly inspired over our last couple conversations about the threads of conversation that have come out about how we create, why we create, and what the impacts, and I'll do that in air quotes and come back to it, what the impacts of that creation process are. And so I'm queuing up this series of conversations, and I really do want it to be a conversation. I don't have anything particularly to present or any case to be made. I obviously come in with my creative process and my intentions as an artist, but I have learned a tremendous amount from this community over the last years, and I'm just, selfishly, I'm just super interested in cultivating more of that, both for myself and hopefully that reflects back out to all of us and informs and elevates how we create, why we create, and the outcomes of our creations. So with that, again, the last couple of conversations have been very much activated around when we create, what are the impacts of that? How does it, and how does that impact or enable our existence as artists, and take that existence as both just making our way through the world as well as creating livelihood to sustain ourselves, pay the rent and put food on the table and things like that. And that was, I thought that conversation happened about a month ago, and then a couple of weeks ago, Beth Grossman did a lovely talk about her the centerpiece of her manifesto, her personal manifesto in her work, and I thought really compellingly the very beginning of her conversation, she really emphatically expressed the distinction between values and beliefs. And I thought that really beautifully set the stage for, again, for the conversation to be focused on values, universal values, as opposed to, our personally held belief systems. And so again, the purpose of today is really to, I think for me, was to combine those two elements, this notion of of our values as artists, versus our personal beliefs. So our values as artists, and what we are intending as we present to the world, present to the public, our creative outputs, and how do we create those, present those, generate our existence from them as we try to navigate this larger set of transformational issues that we're faced with. And for me, I contextualize those transformational issues around, how do we act as artists? How do we live as artists as we move towards post-colonialism, post-industrialism, post-consumerism? And so with that, I'll open the floor and ask. I think microphones off is cool. I'm not a big Zoom hand raiser, so just decorum in speaking. But I'd love to hear how others are navigating the complexities that we are tenuously stepping in and out of as we try to live as creatives in a burdened existence.
I can go first since nobody else raised their hand.
Great.
I've been cleaning the studio a lot, organizing things and getting things kind of like trying to do I consider it kind of like a hard reset and trying to figure it out. And I'm hoping through that process, I will have some clarity about where to go with things. I have a few ideas. One of my favorite ideas is once I get the studio kind of cleaned up and opened up a bit, it got a bit cramped, is to do like repair circles in person. So instead of like sewing circles, think of a repair circle. I have a book that inspired me called The Art of Repair. And it's kind of about a woman in the UK wrote it, and it's just about repairing like things you own. But I thought it'd be cool to get together actually and repair fabric, we could repair anything or make something, and then talk about repairing, if you have to repair your life or if you have to repair the earth or in what way. So that's one of the things that I'm looking at in the future of doing. And other than that, I have a lot of trouble with I think, and I kind of have been studying AI a lot and thinking a lot about the future and the art and where this is going. And I feel like, I'm not a conceptual artist so much. I'm a materialist. Like I like doing and making and putting things together in divergent ways. And so the whole materialist part of it is the part that I'm really grappling with.
Yeah.
Using materials and the paints and all that is, so I've been slowly transitioning to more, sustainable materials.
Yep.
But it's been hard because you are part of a system, and the system is, when you're part of a system, it's hard to be outside of the system. It's hard to go against your system. And so I'm just having to accept some of the limitations of that. Because otherwise I sit outside and not participating, because I don't believe in what the system is doing. So when I'm doing that, I decided, well, how am I going to get my work out there, or if I'm not going to participate, because I don't agree with the system. So I redid my website and started selling prints online, just to try to get my imagery out there more too. With somebody for marketing, because I don't like the marketing aspect of it. But at the same time, that the images have a lot of influence. So anyway, that's right.
Yeah, and I think that notion of, trying to operate within the system, the system of the art world, how do we reconcile that? The art world is, it's like any other capitalistic system, and yeah, that's a central question. I'd love to hear others' inputs on that in terms of navigating the deep system of gallery and exhibition, and thinking there's both beauty and tragedy in that system, right? Like, we love seeing our shit hanging on a wall, but there's deep cost associated with that. And what's that reconciliation? And maybe it's not even a reconciliation. What's that navigation?
Hello.
I think, Anton, you might have had your hand up first.
Okay.
Okay, well, I do a lot of writing, and I think from a system standpoint, if you're going to navigate the art system, I think that it's important, first of all, recognize it for what it is. It's a system of power over individuals, and that's what it's created for. That's what it maintains, is the power, whether it's economic or whether it's idealistic or whatever. It's about the power that the system maintains over the artist. So I think the way to deal with that is not to enter it, is to kind of go through it. And that's, in other words, the role of art is not about laying out a future. It's about seeing through the limitations of what is right now in a way that really springs out an emotional reaction, a visceral reaction. And so that the system of power, which is primarily the art world and the galleries and all that, it becomes no longer relevant. I'm not quite sure how to go about doing that. The internet offers some opportunities. It democratizes, especially for writing, it democratizes writing. But for visual arts, I'm not quite sure how to go about that. There's also a distinction between making a living with your art and then providing art that goes through the system and creates awareness, of a different kind of awareness without really depending on economic realities. So I think the real key is not to get caught up in that system. Somehow go through it.
I love that. What's the? I just put it in the chat. What's our Substack? What for as a visual artist, visual or performing artist? Like, what's our Substack? What's our medium? That's a great opportunity for somebody.
Ready for me?
I'm ready for you.
Okay. Well, it's nice hearing Anton speak about the system and in and out or whatever of the system, because I had the, difficulty through my career of being in the system, trying to be within the system, and realizing that the work I was doing didn't really fit most often to the system of sales of artwork, because I realized my work was more about social change and engagement with other artists, which Anton brought up as another option that people go to. I ended up kind of realizing that over 20 some years of whatever. And I never really did need the system, because as an artist, I also had a commercial aspect to my fine art as a sign painter for many years. So I can go anywhere and if I needed to make money and paint a sign somewhere or have an art project, and then I would fund my project by doing sign painting, and all of the tools and stuff from that material became part of how then I started expressing my fine art. So it goes back to what was talked about with redoing my studio. Everything has totally fallen apart at this point, and I'm rebuilding my studio, rebuilding everything. And I keep thinking, as soon as I clear out more space, like Belinda said, you have to, what do I do now? And the thing is, now I don't need the income. I'm retired, but I do want to keep promoting my ideas, what my art's all about. So what do I do at this point? My whole art has been about trying to make positive change in the world to help protect our earth from destructive practices. Well, my career is not going real well if that's my goal, because and everybody said, oh, be an environmentalist, prepare to get depressed. So yes, I'm struggling with a lot of depression and aging and going, oh God, what do I do now? But I am continuing to put those ideas out, and using both the internet as a way of putting it out there in the messages. And I will be making some new pieces again. In the meantime, I made some new pieces using archived work that I had as a poster that I could just digitally print and then put out there. And so, you have to stay open to new ideas. And then I got to realizing one of my best creative artworks is the fact that I took this piece of double deep lot in Portland, Oregon, and I let the trees and stuff grow. I told my friends, oh, I'm going to turn it into an ancient forest. They all laughed at me like, oh yeah, right. Well, there was some existing mature trees on the property, and half of my neighbor's yard I bought from him that had some existing trees, planted a bunch more. 30 some years gone, it's almost 35 years now. All of a sudden, the backyard's turned into this wild forest with all sorts of rotting things and animals and birds that come visit and everything. And it's like so wonderful. I could go out there and paint my plein air paintings if I wanted to, if I could get the time and the energy and all this together. I'm trying to recycle as much of the materials I've already bought so I don't have to buy new ones. I'm trying to figure out how to do what I do with less toxic things, to toxic sign painting paint that's super intensely toxic, to water-based now that they have, but getting more conceptual. Like I got to thinking, oh, my new one is about the good growth garden, which is a physical piece. So it's going to promote people to put their ideas on a piece of paper, put it into this transparent box, and then take those ideas and then post somewhere. So that when you put your paper in, it's like the seed planting the idea, and you post it out where it can grow. And so it's like having good growth gardens could also be having community gardens where people learn about permaculture and have education about social change that we can make and all these ideas that we talk about here on the network and blah, blah. And connecting people and energy. So I don't know what I'm doing other than trying to keep from getting depressed, try to keep cleaning and organizing my studio, and try to figure out how to keep making new work and getting it out there, whether in a physical space or on an internet space. And hopefully someday getting an assistant who can help me with technology things that I really don't deal with well.
And that, you know, it's interesting you bring up permaculture and growth, and it's interesting to me. I mean, obviously, I think for the several of you that I know, you know, in some way, our work is all ecologically centered, and it is interesting how much overlap there is between permaculture, agriculture, growth, and art. You know, especially when we begin to talk about community-based art, it seems to gravitate towards gardens and gardening activity. Just an observation. I don't have any grand statement about it. Go ahead, Anne.
Hi. So mine doesn't gravitate toward gardens. Mine gravitates, it just doesn't. But it's still logical, so it's kind of different. I'm using what I've been learning through systems thinking, what I've been learning through ecology and biology and neuroscience and just, you know, life principles that I'm seeing around me that make sense. And I'm looking at how those can be applied within what I'm doing. And just seeing how that might work. And I'm using context. Context has been for a very long time, I think for a very long time, because I think you guys heard me before, a very long time ago, you know, I got kind of disillusioned with all this thing of where this was headed and just kind of said, okay, I don't like the game. How do we change the game? Don't know. But context is interesting because it offers opportunities and it creates blockages. And so I'm running with those the best. So right now, for example, and in multiple different ways. So as a dance and movement person, I'm applying the skill sets I've gained as a director of a company producing, you know, performance productions on a regular basis, for example, using that skill set to work with and create, I guess, or hopefully nurture the possibility of community, interdisciplinary community, between a group of neuroscientists at one of the top teaching hospitals and universities here, where I teach yoga, and getting a conversation going, hopefully, across the boundaries with movement people. This is really tricky. But so, for example, like I'm putting my skill set to use differently in ways that I feel are choreographic, on a social level, perhaps. I guess so that's one project I'm working on that's a little odd, and an odd use of my skill set. Can't fight against it anymore, but when opportunities work, fingers crossed for one little project that might do something interesting, you know, I'd be really happy to get back into the performative domain, but you know, does the context allow for it? Does it make sense? Is it financially viable? You know, where are we on the planet? Does it work?
Right.
So these questions come into play. So
yeah. I mean, it's beautiful that you've been able to recontextualize, and that it's good food for thought in terms of, you know, maybe and I think this has been said in this forum before, that, you know, maybe the world doesn't need more art pieces. Maybe we don't need more things to hang up on the wall. Is the creation of work as an object or as a thing that gets hung on a wall or as a dance performance that's showcased at a theater, is that negatively perpetuating consumerism? Do we lose anything by saying yes to that? What do we gain by saying no to that?
I would say yes to it if I could. It's just not the option sometimes. So,
Right.
I'm not even thinking that much. I mean, I'm thinking in terms of I'm thinking in two terms. One is like, my life is the work of art. Okay, what do I do with that? And
Mhm.
then if I care about contributing toward the change or transformation that's needed to have a world in which we can coexist with more than just ourselves, and can coexist peaceably and harmoniously, if I might imagine forward. What can I do? What with the skill set I have, with this weird, odd skill set I have, So it influences the content of what I do. It influences the structures of how I do it. It's just those determine what I do, and what I do doesn't look like there's any consistency whatsoever to it. The only consistency is the driving values and the skill set that I have to work with. That's all. So I don't feel like an artist anymore. I know I am, and I know those are the skills that I'm using, are the ones I've gained as an artist, but I feel like I've been abandoned by, I don't know if it's, one or the other. My work doesn't seem to fly, except in these odd ways that don't make any sense, to which I cannot attach financial outcomes at this point. I have not, I've had to write that completely off the page. If I want to be able to do what matters to me, if I want to be able to conduit whatever it is we do, like whatever that is bring it down, and put it out there, to be able to do that, the whole monetary construct completely distorts that for me. I get completely distorted, confused, don't know how to work with that at all. Totally lost on that.
Right.
I let it go.
Yeah, I'm there with you on that. It's powerful.
Do you have this? Oh, I'm too.
Go ahead. I think you were kind of next-ish.
Who's me?
You.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoever I am. Well, so I think the whole capitalistic piece of art is a huge problem, and I never could work with it. I saw what happened to artists I knew that focused on sales and showing, and so I got a day job in something completely different, so it wouldn't kind of interfere with my creativity. And I was lucky enough to then get fired and move abroad and then take my pension early. And now I kind of feel like I can focus on my whole life as art, and I'm still making things because I'm like reading a lot more, and I'd hate for writers to stop writing. That would be a disaster, I think. It doesn't like have to take up space and take up technology and but I show it online. I don't have a full website, but I also participate in Instagram a lot and, things like this. I bought a forest that I'm working to improve. I have a rescue garden. So I'm trying to do like the full thing, and I'm much happier because I'm outside of that capitalistic thing. I mean, I get to sell a few pieces, and I've got stuff in, in like institutions, but I think it's that capitalist part that really screws you. And I wouldn't know what to say to someone who was 25. I'd say get a day job. I don't know what else to do, but it's such a part of my being that I couldn't get up in the morning if I weren't doing stuff.
Yeah, but so I mean, but you point out your personal story is regarding capitalism is you can't live with it, and you can't live without it, right? You know, it
Well,
brings you
because I
down.
have a pension. Well, I tried to do good, though. I tried to work at a job that made life better for people.
You know,
So at least I felt like, I wasn't working for the oil company or something. But I mean, you all have to make choices, and I'm just lucky that I could do that. But you're right, I live on a pension from in healthcare.
Mm.
And then I'll get Social Security someday, and that will be nice. But it gives me that freedom. So it's almost like we need some way of giving artists freedom to create without taking away.
Mm.
Well, hello.
Hello, Gordon. Go ahead.
So I'll go back to what Anton stated and contributed earlier, is you kind of have to work through the system. And I think when we're very young, the idea is that you produce whatever kind of artwork you do, and then you exhibit it, and you do the gallery game, and then you sort of mature past that, you evolve past that. And not that we don't want to exhibit our artwork, but we are makers, as human beings. We want to work with our hands and make objects. And I've thought a lot about this, like everyone else. I can't stop making what I make. I would collapse. I would implode. I wouldn't be a happy biological being. But I try to keep it in perspective. So I do the best thing to do is figure out within your personality how to collaborate with community wherever you are. And what everyone has already said is, it sounds like a lot of us are doing that already. A lot of what I was working on pre-COVID got, put on the shelf because none of us could interact in person. And now I'm rebooting that. And a lot of it has to do with the Cascadia bioregion and bioregionality and working locally. And so a week ago, I went to this event for this book, which is called Cascadia Zen, the very thick volume of collaboration of a lot of people in the bioregion that are writers, artists, scientists, and I'm totally empathetic to what everyone here is sharing, because we're at this threshold moment in our cultural, civilizational time. And so whether you're a writer or a painter or whatever kind of object maker you are, that has meaning. And you just have to find ways to share it with your community. And that community can be local. And of course, through the internet, now we can share it globally. And that's what I find the value of this network to be, along with some other networks I'm working with. But the idea of making money with your art is we've all been challenged by that for decades. And I've gotten sort of into this place with my local culture, world, society, where I bring this up quite a bit, because the gatekeepers are in the galleries and the museums and the institutions. But if you go out into your community and find all different ways, like it sounds like everyone's doing in different ways, on different scales, I think that's just the best way to continue doing what we're doing and being able to talk about it. But we also have to bring this dialogue, this conversation out into the broader context. Because art has a purpose, a meaning, a value in the world. you know, whether it's, and for me, it relates to nature and other species. And there's just so much to this dialogue that we need to just keep processing and supporting each other in. And what Remedios brought up the whole idea of regenerating and nurturing a forest around her property, her home. And, you know, that's a whole part of it as well. And Michelle is actually doing that in Bend with her partner and husband with the farm. And so to me, everything's about relationship, reciprocity, and making connections and then expanding them just within our own neighborhoods and communities. And then the larger picture comes into play, and you can go off on all sorts of tangents with that. But anyway, thanks for sharing. Good to see everybody.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to sort of mention the elephant in the room, especially when we start to talk about money and capitalism and everything, because when I look around me and my world right now of people who are my artist friends, we're all, you know, middle-aged. We may have partners or pensions or Social Security or whatever. And I feel like, yeah, I can go and do and sidestep the art world and do all the things that I need to do. I have that privilege, but I want to call it out as a privilege, because when we don't, as older people and as mentors, ask for remuneration for the real work that we're doing in the world, we are actually cutting off opportunities for younger artists and artists of color. And that I think that that's really, really an important state. And I also noticed that for myself, yeah, I don't really need the money right now, but I also feel like people don't respect what I'm doing. They don't value what I'm doing. And they just think, oh, I'm just having fun doing what I love in the world. And this is real work. We are workers. And I feel like we have to stand up, not only even if we don't need it, if you don't need it, take the money and give it to where it is needed, but we need to ask for money, and we have to really be firm about that, because we're setting a precedent for those other voices that would be lost and the important work that they could do.
That's great perspective. Thank you. That's great.
I'm sorry, I have another meeting I have to run to. So in about 5 minutes, I'm gonna sign off, but just really thank you for this discussion. It's something that I've wrestling with all the time, and it's
Great.
really nice to hear kindred spirits.
Great. Well, thanks for jumping in for the period of time you could.
Thank you.
Fred, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Thank you for this platform and experience sharing opportunity.
Sure.
Welcome.
Yeah.
This is good. I'm calling in from Uganda's border with the DRC Congo, in East Africa. Yeah, so my view is somehow unique in the sense that for us in Africa, we really believe art is from a perspective of adding value to society. We believe we exist because of art. Yes, we exist because of art, and art is not for me, it is for the society. And we look at it in the context of that creativity and the value addition we bring into the world. Yes. So we have art in the context of drawings. We have art in the context of music. Yeah, we have art in the context of natural healing. Yeah, there are people who are skilled. He touches your leg even if it is broken, and you get a healing. We have art in terms of heart. Yes, yes. That creativity, it may cross cut to science. We have art in the context of using your skill extraordinarily. Yeah. So and for us, we think it's not my art. It is art for the society, right? And most of our traditionally in Africa, the issue of money was not important. Yes, we did everything for the society. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
so.
beautiful.
So we have seen the concept of money evolving over time, and in most cases coming from the Western world. But we take society as the first priority, and I've heard someone talk of I. In Africa, we talked of we. So of course, capitalism comes with that. Capitalism comes with the I economy of one person. So which actually distorts society. In the COVID era, I saw how many people were throwing money in windows, like in Italy. I saw that, and I saw here in Africa how people were sharing the act of healing. You come in my garden, you find some herbs, and you take for free, no money. You take for free. So I think art now thrives on the concept of values. Which values do we have? Do we have values for me alone to exist alone, or we have values for the society? Right? Yeah. So whereas money is important, maybe because we need of course now society has in mental health we call it safety network. Society has a network. There are people, different prayers, right? We have carpenters, we have cleaners, we have painters. Yes. So because of this element of specialization by different people, we may need money to get what we don't have, right? So yeah, but now it comes in with the element of culture now. Yeah. Of course, society and culture and indigenous knowledge, they are all intertwined. So society reproduces itself, right? So for that natural reproduction and replication of society, standing values must be upheld. If we say we are following money, we shall kill society. Yeah, and in this discussion, it made me reflect on the permaculture we are doing. I've posted there something about Peace Foundation. Our grassroots group is called the Permaculture Education Action and Community Empowerment. So how do we do our community education? We use the art of music, music drama. We dance for people for free, not for sale. And in doing that, we are creating awareness about restoration, about regeneration, about food security. Yeah. So yeah, I now think even when I saw this I logged into this. This is what came into my mind. Yeah, and I feel if this knowledge, this experience adds on how we can contribute. Someone has shared that sometimes money should go to where it is needed. Right? Yeah, money should go to where it is needed. If we really understand the challenges that exist outside where we are, why should we hold the money not to send it where it should be? Yeah, where it should be, to create impact, or to enable someone use it to create bigger impact, not even for themselves, but for the society. Yeah. We have many artists here who do drawings, who do music, cultural music, especially to disseminate important information. Yeah, which save lives, but they are challenged by small aspects. For instance, right now Uganda is struggling with inflated costs of transport. You see, actually, even the post COVID period, Uganda is still actually, maybe some other countries also are still recovering from the effect of COVID. So art now, I mentioned the element of values. Values come from the heart, from
That's right.
attitude. Yeah, they influence the product of mindset. What do we think about those people who are struggling,
Right.
who are crippled? Yeah. So I think this is also the element of
Yeah.
of art. It is
Yeah,
really,
and
really
I
interesting.
think the notion that you're saying, the movement from I to we, uh, the reflection of getting deeper into community and creating and spreading community, for sure are lessons, ways of being that I think again, at least for the artists that I know within this network, that we are actively grappling with and trying to lend our voice to lead towards some of that transformation in uh, in both our communities, our regions, our nations, recognizing that, no pun intended, deep transformation is required. So,
yeah,
thank you.
great.
Anton, you had brought up in the chat. Hold on, let me go back here because it spurred something for me. About how art should illuminate where we are in our human journey by bringing us together in mutual recognition of our shared humanity. And that got me reflecting on the idea of, in this time, and as we struggle for how and why we create, and how it's funded or not funded, remunerated or not remunerated, kind of the purpose of it. And I think you beautifully express that, again, art as an illuminator, because it really struck me, because so frequently we talk about art as a communication tool, device, and that frequently sits with me as, like, I always think, well, I don't know, the notion of things visual communicating, like, isn't that the role of marketing and PR and branding? And so isn't the intention of art bigger, grander than that? So I like that turn of it, as art as an illuminator, as opposed to art as a communicator. But
yeah, true.
Well, I think that, at least for me, when I consider all the great works of art that I've seen in the world, every single one of them has produced what I call the shock of recognition. And in that piece, or in that dance, or the music, whatever it is, I recognize something about myself and about other people, about where we are. And I think that art that doesn't produce a shock of recognition, it just doesn't have the power that's necessary. See, I think art has actually more power than money, and that's actually what scares a lot of the wealthy folks who have dedicated their lives to building money. Now, at the same time, I mean, we all need to eat. We got to have a sandwich every now and then. So I think the shock of recognition is the hallmark of all great works of art, and I think that's really what's needed right now from the artists. And I think if you can do that in a way that's not too scary for people, I think that's how you can succeed in the world. What happens is, at least from my experience, the shock of recognition devolves into commercial art, and advertising things, marketing, things like this, because you can manipulate the shock of recognition for that purpose. But if you focus on the shock of recognition as a way of seeing through the system, a way of seeing the power that's inherent in us as human beings, I think that is a way out.
Nice. Thank you. Christina?
Well, I just two things. I think that what Fred said about it's not my art, right? If we are actually, we get very stuck in individualism in our Western minds, right? So, but if we are not individuals, if we are channels and conduits for like a greater awakening, awareness, movement, whatever you want to call it, deep transformation, then we are called to make what we make, whether it's communities or gardens or forests or paintings. And I take some, I take some solace in like, I'm part of something bigger. And I think I've mentioned before this term, morphogenic field. It's a Rupert Sheldrake term about like just that we're all in this complex web of relationships that we can't even necessarily see which point in Indra's net we are. But but we need to be doing our sparkle, we're in our little, on our little jewel. And that shock of recognition thing really calls to mind, like this summer, I saw the Hilma af Klint exhibition. I was in London and I got to see it. And it was the first time I've ever wept in front of a painting because I had that experience, that shock of recognition. She was somebody who clung so closely to her vision without participating in the greater art conversation of the time and all of the, the whether, commercial recognition, etc. And she did not speak to her generation. She's speaking to this generation right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that also then again gives me a little bit of strength to carry forward with, my biggest, best vision, whether or not that's going to be a hot object right now.
Yeah.
So.
Take solace in the legacy that you create.
Well, the potential, and not even that. I'm not in any way attached to the idea of legacy. I think that's another lie we like to tell. But I just think that, I don't know, it's the potential, of the truth, right? So it may never be received. It may never be, seen out there in the mists of time. But to tell the truth now and locate and identify and speak your own truth, it's the best we got, right? It's all we got.
Yep. Nice. Thank you. Louisa.
Hi, I'm new to this community just today, so hello everybody. I just wanted to say that I'm calling in from the UK, but I lived in Aotearoa, New Zealand for 18 years, and I resonate with what Fred said about I and we in the Maori culture there, which I was fortunate to sort of spend a lot of time with. It was very much if you were to be an artist, you were selected by the community in a way, and that was your role, and you did it whether you got paid for it or not, because that was your role, as part of the we, as part of the bigger picture. But I also wanted to say that I've been working a lot with, I work with movement a lot, movement in the outdoors, movement listening through the body, through the porous animal body to the more than human world. And so there's something about the artist as public listener as opposed to as communicator.
Mhm.
And I think Ernesto Pujol, who wrote a book called Walking Art Practice, writes about this too. And perhaps, you know, in this time where I've found for myself where I had moved countries and had no studio, I had to change my practice completely. And the best thing I could do at that point was just listen. And I took a lot of solace from the work of Pauline Oliveros and her deep listening work, and just listening to what I had to do next and what was my next piece to make and what was the next role. That's all I wanted to say, was about listening.
That's such a powerful turn of the phrase of, you know, art as communicator. But, you know, what does it mean if our art really does become about us just listening, as opposed to sometimes struggling to attach to what we're trying to say and just listen. Yeah, I like that. I'm trying, we're gonna respect closing down at 1:30 to keep this timely. So couple more minutes for any final thoughts. And my intention with this is, I guess we've kind of generally scheduled out to have this sort of conversation once a month. And I'd love for, we can have shout out right now for other related topics that you might be interested in us diving into, or I can throw my email in the chat and you feel free to shoot me email to start a conversation. So, anybody got anything?
I put my email out there too. We've got, you know, we've got a budding schedule of topics coming up for the coming year. We're excited to keep hosting this space, and please be in contact with us if you have an idea, something to share.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your contributions and jumping on, and we'll see you in a couple. What's coming up in a couple weeks, Christina? Do you know?
Christmas break is coming up, so we got nothing. We got nothing for about a month. We're gonna take a pause over the holidays, and we'll be back on January 9th. I believe that's our next. What's next for Earth? I don't remember if it's an exhibition of finished art or a call to new art. But please join us then and every other Tuesday thereafter.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.